As part 2 wraps up, Cheng Yao's awkward confession and Qian Heng's growing feelings reach a breaking point, leaving their relationship in a precarious balance. Just as emotions are about to overflow, the story prepares for an unexpected turn in part 3. Meanwhile, Wu Jun noticed that Cheng Shi was going somewhere and saw Deng Ming's car following her. He called Cheng Shi, but she didn't answer, so he quickly informed Cheng Yao. Worried about Cheng Shi, Cheng Yao asked Qian Heng to go with her to Cheng Shi's house to prevent Deng Ming from bothering her. They quickly made their way to the building. When they arrived, Cheng Shi tried to stop Deng Ming from entering her room, but he forced his way in. She pushed him away, but Deng Ming continued to come after her. Just at that moment, Wu Jun arrived and triggered the emergency alarm outside. As Deng Ming opened the door, Wu Jun rushed in and rescued Cheng Shi. After Wu Jun beat him, Deng Ming started causing trouble, threatening to ruin both of them. Cheng Shi then showed the recorded CCTV footage from her room, which revealed Deng Ming's disgraceful actions. Wu Jun told Deng Ming to grab his clothes and leave, escorting him out. Cheng Shi felt immense relief and happiness seeing Wu Jun there. After a short time, Cheng Yao and Qian Heng also arrived. Later, Qian Heng dropped Cheng Yao off at her house, but quickly returned with food. He even peeled prawns for her, showing his care. After talking for a while, Cheng Yao noticed it was getting late. She remarked that Qian Heng's home was far away and that he needed to work the next morning. Hearing this, Qian Heng became angry, thinking she was trying to make him leave. He quietly left the house. After he was gone, Cheng Yao struggled to take off the bracelet that Qian Heng's mother had given her. She lay down, wondering if Qian Heng was serious about her or just seeking revenge or playing a prank. She reflected that Qian Heng was a high-status person, while she felt like an ordinary girl, questioning if she was worthy of him. On the other hand, Qian Heng couldn't sleep that night. Meanwhile, Wu Jun had hurt his foot during the incident yesterday. Qian Heng sent him 2 wheelchairs as a gift. A little later, Cheng Shi arrived to calm him down. Seeing her, Wu Jun felt very happy. He even had slippers in her size ready at his home, hoping she would visit one day. Cheng Shi sat beside Wu Jun, thinking about all his kindness. She wondered out loud how she could ever repay him. Hearing this made Wu Jun sad. Cheng Shi continued, admitting that she felt unworthy of him. She thought he was so much better than her because of all he had done, and she wanted their relationship to be equal. In response, Wu Jun tried to reassure her, explaining that in love, no one is better or worse than anyone else. He emphasized that love is about feelings, and his feelings for her were real. He added that life is long, and they would need each other. After saying this, he leaned in to kiss her, but as his hand brushed against the wheelchair, it unexpectedly spun him around. The next day, Cheng Yao returned the bracelet to Qian Heng, apologizing and explaining that it belonged to his mother. She felt she no longer had the right to keep it. Just then, her phone rang. Her mother was calling to ask if she had broken up with Qian Heng. Cheng Yao confirmed the breakup, and her mother mentioned that a special visitor was coming to meet her. This visitor turned out to be Yu Fei, a childhood friend, and her mother had arranged a blind date, even sending Cheng Yao pictures of him. Cheng Yao messaged her mother, saying she was too busy to go anywhere that day, and her mother agreed. Afterward, Cheng Yao left the office early and headed home. Shortly after, a parcel arrived at the office, flowers from Mr. Yu Fei, sent in Cheng Yao's name. This sparked gossip about how romantic her blind date was, which angered Qian Heng. He reprimanded everyone and told them to return to their seats. When Cheng Yao reached her apartment, she found Yu Fei waiting outside. Her mother had told him that Cheng Yao would be too busy for dinner and had given him her address. Cheng Yao invited him upstairs, where she had already prepared dinner, which made Yu Fei very happy. He admired how well she balanced work and home life. Yu Fei then mentioned that his company's headquarters were nearby, and he would be transferring there the following month. He added that Cheng Yao's last boyfriend had been terrible and suggested she think about her future since they were both single. Just then, Qian Heng came out of her room, annoyed by the noise Yu Fei was making. Cheng Yao was startled to see Qian Heng, while Yu Fei reacted even more strongly. Cheng Yao quickly explained that Qian Heng was her former roommate, who had probably come to pick up some things he had forgotten and stayed because it was getting late. However, Qian Heng, angry about Yu Fei's presence, decided to sabotage the blind date. Every time Yufei tried to talk to Cheng Yao, Qian Heng interrupted him and belittled him. Cheng Yao's discomfort grew, and she finally stood up to leave. Yufei then confronted Qian Heng, asking if his behavior came from feelings for Cheng Yao or if he was holding a grudge that made him ruin her blind date. The tension between them was clear, but when Cheng Yao returned, both men straightened up. Eventually, Yufei left, and Cheng Yao saw him out. When she returned, she found Qian Heng still sulking and commenting that the dinner had been a total disappointment. 2 days later, Cheng Yao went on another blind date with Yufei. Qian Heng learned about this from Bao Rui and quickly went to the restaurant where Cheng Yao and Yufei were having dinner, which was near the office. At the restaurant, Cheng Yao was scolded for leaving so much work at the office. Yufei, surprised, asked if Cheng Yao's companion was her boss, not just a roommate, becoming suspicious of the situation. Later, Yufei told Qian Heng that work hours were over and he shouldn't bother his colleague. Both Cheng Yao and Yufei pointed out that Qian Heng's outfit didn't match the restaurant's atmosphere and suggested he should leave. In response, Qian Heng questioned who owned the restaurant and who was speaking ill of it. Yufei, fearing a confrontation, remained silent. Yufei finally asked Qian Heng about his relationship with Cheng Yao. Qian Heng replied that he was not just her boss, but also her boyfriend. Hearing this, Cheng Yao choked on her food. Qian Heng then began to tell a story about how Cheng Yao had persistently tried to win him over. At first, he rejected her, but eventually he softened. He mentioned that even though she went on a blind date with someone else after his rejection, he still felt possessive of her. Yufei, already angry, quietly left before Cheng Yao could say anything. Cheng Yao turned to Qian Heng and explained that the misunderstanding was caused by the wrong gift and insisted she hadn't chased him. However, Qian Heng, using his serious legal tone, pointed out that among the three of them, he had suffered the most. He argued that, although it wasn't his fault, the wrong gift had been given, and someone had made an error in packing it. Therefore, he believed he deserved compensation for having his feelings hurt. Feeling sad, Cheng Yao asked if Qian Heng had fallen in love with her. He should have said yes, but he remained silent, held back by his pride. Cheng Yao began to doubt herself, wondering if someone like Qian Heng could ever truly love her. Then, Qian Heng proposed that as compensation for the mistaken gift, Cheng Yao must work for him as a housekeeper for 3 days. She arrived at his villa, where he assigned her tasks like cleaning the pond, trimming the garden, and polishing the windows. Overwhelmed, Cheng Yao struggled with the large size of the villa. In the evening, Qian Heng challenged Cheng Yao again, demanding that she win the biggest gift available. Despite exhausting herself playing basketball, she couldn't win it. The next day, he woke her up early and told her to come to his villa. When she arrived to start her work, Qian Heng assigned her the task of cleaning the floors. He then went to the study, intentionally mentioning that he wouldn't come out for 4 hours. He wanted Cheng Yao to rest while he was gone, but she was determined to keep working. Even though her boss wasn't there, she continued her chores the entire time. By the time Qian Heng returned, Cheng Yao was exhausted and asleep, and the house was sparkling clean. He thought she was foolish for working so hard, but at that moment, Cheng Yao woke up, and her anger was clear. Cheng Yao confronted her boss, asking if he saw her as a human or an animal. She reminded him that she had joined the company to become a lawyer, not to be treated like a servant, all because of a mistake with a gift. Furious, she declared her intention to quit. Qian Heng, distressed by her outburst, grabbed her hand and confessed that he liked her. He admitted he had always loved her, but hadn't had the courage to say so. He explained that his actions had been excuses to stay close to her, and he never meant to hurt her. Shocked by his sudden confession, Cheng Yao asked if he truly loved her and wondered if she was worthy of him and his status. Qian Heng reassured her, insisting that his feelings were real. Blushing and overwhelmed, Cheng Yao went home, unsure how she would face her boss at work after his confession. The next day, Qian Heng was not at the office because he was attending a meeting. Cheng Yao stayed late, planning to be the last one to leave when Qian Heng returned. When he walked in, their eyes met, and Qian Heng, looking unusually tired, asked if she had thought about his confession and made a decision. They exchanged glances, with Qian Heng appearing both strange and exhausted. He asked Cheng Yao if she had considered what he said and if she had come to a decision. Cheng Yao simply smiled. Qian Heng, wanting to persuade her again, declared his love for her. He said he was the right person for her and promised that if she agreed, she would be the second happiest person in the world, because he would be the happiest if he won her love. Cheng Yao pointed out that he was just repeating someone else's words, not his own. At that moment, Bao Rui entered the office, causing Cheng Yao to quickly hide under a desk. Qian Heng managed to send Bao Rui away and pulled Cheng Yao out of her hiding spot. They stood close to each other, and Qian Heng leaned in to kiss her, but Cheng Yao stopped him and ran away. The following morning, when Cheng Yao arrived at the office, she learned that the actress she had clashed with had filed a defamation case against her law firm, but the firm had won the case. Because of this victory, those who had spread rumors about Cheng Yao online faced consequences. This success was largely thanks to Wu Jun and Qian Heng. Additionally, the actress had gotten involved in a new controversy as her past actions came to light again. Later, Qian Heng called Cheng Yao to his office to discuss a case and asked her to study it. Cheng Yao was surprised to find out that the case involved the actress. Qian Heng told her he had taken the case just for her and assured her that he knew how to protect those around him. Cheng Yao felt touched by his concern for her. At the office, Qian Heng gave Bao Rui the day off and assigned Cheng Yao a small task. After she completed it, he insisted on driving her home. When they arrived at her place, Qian Heng offered to help with the housework, but Cheng Yao declined. He reminded her that he had made her work at his villa for 2 days and wanted to repay her, asking her not to stop him. He started cleaning, but accidentally broke several items. Amused, Cheng Yao directed him to the kitchen. When she entered, she found that Qian Heng had broken even more plates while trying to wash the dishes. Embarrassed, he had tried to help but only caused more chaos. Later, Qian Heng searched online for tips on how to win over his assistant's heart. He also found Cheng Yao on Weibo and carefully looked through her profile, learning about her likes, dislikes, and everything else. The next morning, Cheng Yao expected Qian Heng to pick her up, but he was nowhere to be found. Later at the office, Qian Heng arrived late, carrying a special dessert for her. He had gone to a shop far from his villa and stood in a long line to get it, having discovered from Cheng Yao's Weibo that she liked it. Touched by his effort, Cheng Yao felt special. Later, Qian Heng took her to the storeroom and asked if she was avoiding him since she hadn't responded to his confession yet. Cheng Yao admitted she had doubts, questioning whether his love was real or just a passing fancy. Qian Heng reassured her, expressing his true feelings and promising to make her happy. Feeling reassured, Cheng Yao kissed him on the cheek, showing her acceptance. Overjoyed, Qian Heng leaned in closer, but their moment was interrupted when someone called Cheng Yao for a meeting. Throughout the day, Qian Heng and Cheng Yao exchanged meaningful glances. After work, they returned home, where Qian Heng prepared a delicious dinner. However, after using too many appliances, a short circuit forced them to light candles. While they ate, they discussed a verbal contract. Cheng Yao playfully told him she would give him a 1-month trial period as her boyfriend, saying that since he was strict with her at work, she would be strict now. Qian Heng laughed and asked her to stop calling him boss, but Cheng Yao insisted it was a habit. In a joking manner, Qian Heng warned her that if she called him boss outside of work, he would cut her annual bonus. Cheng Yao then gave him permission to kiss her. It seemed like this was Qian Heng's first kiss, and he didn't know how to do it properly. Cheng Yao didn't give him another chance and playfully sent him away, but she promised to go on a date with him the next day. Qian Heng carefully chose an outfit and kept checking himself in the mirror until Cheng Yao came downstairs. It was his first date, and he felt nervous. Trying to be romantic, he fastened Cheng Yao's seatbelt for her, but he was very jittery. Still, Cheng Yao found his actions adorable. Meanwhile, Qian Heng was sweating. He performed well in court but felt unsure about handling his first date. They went to a mall where a girl was standing with a questionnaire. Qian Heng answered her questions correctly, and she gave them a gift, thinking they were a couple. When they opened the box, they both felt embarrassed. Finally, they reached their dinner spot and ordered pizza. Qian Heng watched other couples and tried to copy their romantic gestures. At one point, Cheng Yao fed him a piece of pizza, and they enjoyed feeding each other during their date. After spending the whole day together, they returned home in the evening. Qian Heng didn't want Cheng Yao to get out of the car, so he made an excuse, saying the music was very romantic and they should listen to it together. As they sat there, he held her hand, and they enjoyed the music while looking at each other for a long time. When Chung Yao was about to go up to her apartment, Qian Heng started looking for excuses to stop her. He suggested fixing her lamp or some other reason. He just wanted to spend a little more time with her, but Chung Yao quickly left. As she walked away, Qian Heng ran after her, but in a hurry, his hand got stuck in the car door. It hurt a lot, but he pretended to be strong in front of Chung Yao as if nothing had happened. Once Chung Yao was reassured, she went home, and Qian Heng returned to his place. The next day, Chung Yao went to meet Chung Shi and even brought a pizza for her. She looked very happy. Chung Yao started asking her various questions, which led to her finally revealing that she and Qian Heng were in a relationship. Hearing this, Chung Shi was thrilled for her and gave her warm wishes. Chung Yao felt confused and unsure. She thought her boss, Qian Heng, had an amazing personality, while she saw herself as just an ordinary girl. She wondered how long their situation could last. Chung Shi reassured her, insisting that her sister was just as good as anyone else. She emphasized that in love, there are no ranks or hierarchies. Chung Shi encouraged Chung Yao not to worry about what society might think if they both cared for each other. When Chung Yao returned home, she found Qian Heng sitting in her living room with a thick bandage wrapped around his hand. He pretended to have a serious injury, claiming he had hurt his fingers. Feeling sympathetic, Chung Yao started to take care of him by cooking and serving him. When Qian Heng mentioned that he couldn't drive because of his injury, Chung Yao suggested he stay the night, and he smiled broadly at the idea. During dinner, Qian Heng continued his act, struggling to eat with his injured hand. Chung Yao, seeing this, fed him herself, which delighted him. After dinner, Qian Heng came up with another plan. He followed Chung Yao, complaining that he couldn't use the bathroom or shower without getting his bandage wet. Quickly, Chung Yao solved this problem by tying a plastic bag over his hand, much to Qian Heng's disappointment. Standing in the bathroom, he realized his plan had failed and thought of a new one. He called out to Chung Yao, pretending he had pulled a muscle and couldn't stand up straight. He wanted her to help him take off his shirt. But as soon as she did, he smiled, and his pain disappeared. Chung Yao quickly understood his game and noticed that the bandage on his hand was fake. She removed it, realizing Qian Heng had exaggerated his injury all along. The next morning, on their way to the office, Qian Heng asked Chung Yao to help him tie his tie, but she wasn't sure how to do it. After a long struggle, she still couldn't tie it correctly. However, Qian Heng felt happy just being close to her while she helped him. Later at the office, he saw a group of friends gathered around Chung Yao talking. When they noticed Qian Heng, they got nervous and stopped gossiping, but they didn't leave. Qian Heng tried to join their conversation and connect with Chung Yao's friends, but his presence frightened them, and he ended up walking away. During lunchtime, Chung Yao and her friends ordered food. Seeing it, Qian Heng felt tempted and wanted to join his girlfriend for lunch. He deliberately walked by, so they would see him and invite him to eat. Even though they were scared of him being their boss, they felt they had to invite him out of politeness. Qian Heng sat with them, and they ate together. Afterward, he stood with Chung Yao near the elevator, spending some time together. Just then, Yu and Tang came from behind, holding hands. They were nervous, fearing that Qian Heng might have seen them, and Qian Heng worried that they had seen him with Chung Yao. Both couples were in secret relationships at work. Yu felt very anxious, especially since he was carrying Tang's handbag. The four of them got into the elevator together, their faces showing worry and embarrassment. When Chung Yao returned home, she was surprised to find that Qian Heng had prepared a lot of food for her. He had even grilled durian fruit, filling the house with its strong smell. Earlier, Chung Yao had gone out with Tang and done some shopping. She brought a surprise for Qian Heng, a new tie, and she had learned to tie it very well. Qian Heng was thrilled to see the first gift from his girlfriend and loved the tie. Later, Qian Heng was sitting in his room when Chung Yao brought him a parcel he had ordered. However, he didn't want her to open it. After Chung Yao left the room, he opened the package and found a tutorial book on how to be the perfect boyfriend. He planned to study it to become Chung Yao's best boyfriend, but didn't want her to see it, so he covered it up and hid it in his room. Meanwhile, Wu Jun went to meet Chung Shi. She noticed he had been waiting for her, but Wu Jun pretended he had just happened to pass by. Seeing Chung Shi now, it seemed she had begun to open her heart to Wu Jun, She told him to use the tracker on his phone only in emergencies and said she would put one on his phone to track her location. The next day at the office, Chung Yao stood in the storeroom when Qian Heng approached from behind, hugging her affectionately and bringing her a coffee as a sweet gesture. They were about to kiss when Tang walked in, looking for Chung Yao. Soon after, another female colleague joined, and they started gossiping while searching for files, discussing how strict Qian Heng was and how he treated Chung Yao. As the conversation continued about his supposed harshness, Qian Heng overheard them and wondered if Chung Yao shared those complaints. However, Chung Yao defended him, explaining that while he had been rude before, he had become much kinder. Qian Heng, in a light mood, smiled and walked away. Later, he received a teasing message from Wu Jun, saying that while she had opened up to him, Qian Heng would likely stay single. Angered by the message, Qian Heng took a selfie with Chung Yao, declaring it was their first picture together. When Chung Yao questioned him, he said he would use it as his screensaver. She tried to delete the photo, but Qian Heng saved it just in time. Back at the office, Qian Heng called Chung Yao in and assigned her a new case to handle on her own, which made her very happy. He mentioned that this was the first case they would work on as a couple and promised to support her as her boyfriend. Later, Qian Heng drove Chung Yao to meet a new client, dropping her off as she went in to discuss the case. The client appeared nervous during the meeting, while Qian Heng waited, expecting her to return soon. When he offered to wait for lunch, Chung Yao told him to eat without her, saying they would meet later. Qian Heng sat in his office, studying materials about office romance, though the ideas didn't match his own views. Chung Yao, unable to join him for lunch because of a meeting, was busy working on her case. Her client explained that she had faced many injustices, including her husband leaving her after finding out that the baby was fathered by her former classmate, who had blocked all contact. Chung Yao assured the client that she would try to speak to him, took his WeChat number, and reached out. Meanwhile, Qian Heng sat in his office with an incense stick burning, trying to focus on his work. Bao Ruwei and you noticed his strange behavior, commenting that he seemed different lately and even peeked into his office, joking that he might be becoming a monk. At the same time, the real father of the baby arrived at the same restaurant as Chung Yao, looking visibly angry and unaware that the client would be there. He immediately began denying any responsibility, claiming he was about to get married, and accusing her of trying to trap him. He boasted about his wealth and refused to take a DNA test, saying that one night together didn't mean he was the father. He insulted the client, threw money in her face, and demanded she leave. The distressed woman, whose child was in the hospital, was comforted by Chung Yao, who advised her to keep the money since her child had a right to it. Chung Yao's kindness impressed the client. Later, Chung Yao returned to the office, where Qian Heng called her in to discuss the case. He offered his help, but Chung Yao confidently assured him she could handle it on her own. Pleased by her confidence, Qian Heng later messaged her, admitting he hadn't slept well for days. Chung Yao teasingly suggested helping him sleep, causing Qian Heng to blush and feel so warm that he wondered if the air conditioner had stopped working. That evening, Qian Heng returned home and placed a book back on his bookshelf. He had previously covered it with another cover. Afterward, he left for a dinner meeting, leaving Chung Yao alone at home. Needing to study, Chung Yao went into his room and found the same book. When she opened it, she noticed extra writing on the cover, and inside was a book titled How to Make a Perfect Boyfriend While Staying in the Office. Later, when Qian Heng came home, he noticed that the book, which had seemed suspicious, was missing. He asked Chung Yao about it, but she denied knowing where it was, saying he had kept secrets from her. After some teasing, she finally retrieved the book and handed it to him, acknowledging his effort. Meanwhile, Wu Jun was worried about Changxi because she hadn't been responding to his messages. He discovered that she was in a deserted street, and since it was getting dark, he felt concerned. He called his driver and headed toward her location, suspecting she might be in trouble with Deng Ming. Following her location, Wu Jun heard Changxi scream. He rushed to protect her, only to find out she had come to meet a client and was not in any danger. She explained that the scream was from a rat that had entered the client's house. Wu Jun was startled by the rat, and Changxi teased him for rushing to protect her while being scared of a little creature. Changxi eventually decided to accept Wu Jun's love. As she was about to say yes, Wu Jun interrupted her, saying he wanted the moment to be special and that the current place was not suitable. He planned to book a nice restaurant for dinner where she could accept him properly. The next morning, Woo Jun approached Qian Hung about a case from another city, suggesting that Qian Hung handle it. Woo Jun hadn't been focusing much on work lately because he was caught up in his love life. He joked that he felt overworked, comparing himself to a horse instead of a human, and mentioned that he felt different now. Qian Hung noticed that Woo Jun looked tired and thought he might be unwell. However, Woo Jun pointed to his tie, saying it had been tied by someone special, Chung Shi. He teased Qian Hung, suggesting that his understanding of love was as limited as a kindergarten student's. Qian Hung didn't like this comment. Later, Woo Jun was waiting for his driver when he ran into Shai instead. She told him she had taken the car keys from his driver and planned to drive for her boyfriend that day. Hearing this made Woo Jun happy, as he had long wanted to hear her call him her boyfriend. Meanwhile, that evening, Chung Yao saw Qian Hung packing for a business trip to another city that would last a week. This news made her sad, but Qian Hung reassured her, telling her not to worry or miss him too much and that he would return soon. He also allowed her to install a camera in the living area of their house so she could see him whenever she wanted. Afterward, Chung Yao had just taken a bath, and Qian Hung was drying her hair. A romantic moment developed between them. Later, Qian Hung was at the airport with Bao Rui when another female lawyer named Iran approached. Iran was well known in their office for her charming personality, and she was there to discuss a case with Qian Hung. Bao Rui took a photo of them together, saying they looked like a matching couple. After a while, Bao Rui sat next to Qian Hung and sent him a message, saying that seeing both of them together made it seem like they were perfectly suited for each other. This comment made Qian Hung very angry because he loved Chung Yao deeply and knew that Bao Rui would share similar thoughts with her. Meanwhile, Chung Yao was in court that day, where her biological father was visibly upset. He had previously threatened her not to sue him and now warned her that her actions would cause her pain. Inside the courthouse, Chung Yao noticed that the wealthy young man had hired Deng Ming as his lawyer, who seemed to have a close relationship with the judge. Before the case began, Deng Ming approached Chung Yao, pretending to sympathize with her and suggesting she was involved with another manipulative woman. When the hearing started, Deng Ming presented evidence that upset the client. The client began shouting and cursing, showing signs of being unstable. Overwhelmed with depression and stress, the revelations made her lose control. In anger, she declared that she did not want any justice and stormed out of the courtroom. Chung Yao felt uncertain about how to handle the case. When she got home, she began digging deeper into the investigation, going through all the documents Deng Ming had provided. During this time, Qian Hung tried to contact her, but his calls went unanswered because her line was busy. In reality, she was discussing the case with a doctor. Chung Yao reviewed the CCTV footage from the living room, where her voice was also recorded. She had been asking about medication related to male hormones and discussing her client's situation. However, Qian Hung misunderstood her conversation, thinking it was about him, which made him very upset. When they eventually spoke on the phone, Chung Yao cleared up the misunderstanding, expressing her frustration that he had misinterpreted her words. Qian Hung felt ashamed of his reaction. As time went on, Qian Hung became more worried about Chung Yao, sensing that the case was getting complicated. He offered to help her, asking if she could manage it alone or if he should step in. Chung Yao reassured him that she was capable and praised his support before ending the call. Determined to focus on her work, she adjusted the CCTV settings so that Qian Hung wouldn't see what she was doing, allowing him to concentrate on his tasks. Meanwhile, Deng Ming's client expressed his anxiety about the involvement of Junhong Law Firm. He worried that Qian Heng's skills, along with his assistant's involvement, might lead to losing the case and harming his reputation. Deng Ming assured him that he would support him and confidently promised to win the case. He also planned to spread rumors about Chung Yao on social media to intimidate her into dropping the case. At the same time, Chung Yao was discussing the case with Tin and Yu. She planned to take Yu to a place to gather more evidence. However, Yu interrupted by mentioning their client's name, Fun, which startled Chung Yao. She was already under a lot of pressure from local news and facing harassment from the public due to her negative reputation on social media. Amid this chaos, her client called her, saying that his life was in turmoil and that he wanted to withdraw from the case. He asked her to keep her distance, acknowledging her honesty, but insisting that he could no longer continue with the legal proceedings. Chung Yao started to explain how people were attacking her house from the outside. Meanwhile, Chun Shu stood with Wu Jun, who had now become her official boyfriend. Chung Shi received a message from Deng Ming, warning her about their past conflicts and urging her to protect her sister, as Chung Yao was now involved in a case against him. This message left Chung Shi very worried. At the same time, Chung Yao visited her client, but people began throwing eggs, onions, and tomatoes at her. She quickly went inside and tried to persuade her client, emphasizing the need for courage and the importance of thinking about her child's future over personal fears. Chung Yao convinced her client not to abandon the case, but to relocate instead. On her way back, someone threw paint on Chung Yao. Just then, Chung Shi and Wu Jun arrived and called the police. Wu Jun was very concerned about Chung Yao, but she found strength by thinking about Qian Heng's resilience when he started his career, inspiring her to keep going. The Junhong law firm also worked on some cases for free through their public welfare program. They arranged a hotel for the lady to ensure her safety. Wu Jun accompanied Chung Yao and praised her, saying he had long wanted to win her heart because she was meant to be his sister-in-law. Later, Wu Jun received an important call and left, giving Chung Shi the keys to his car. Seeing this, Chung Yao commented on how caring and sweet her boyfriend was to provide her with his car keys. Now, Chung Yao returned to her office, and her colleagues were worried about her after hearing how badly people had behaved at her place. Meanwhile, Qian Heng was in a meeting with lawyer Ran, who had a captivating personality. Bao Rui, watching them work, was mesmerized by her charm. During her presentation, he felt like she was perfect for Qian Heng, and she seemed to match his professionalism. When their work finished early that day, Bao Rui asked for Ran's number because he needed her help. She suggested that since they were free, they should have dinner together that evening. However, before Qian Heng could respond, he received a message about an emergency involving Chung Yao. Worried, he quickly left the meeting. It seemed that for the first time, Ran had developed feelings for Qian Heng. Without hesitation, Qian Heng called Chung Yao. She sounded calm and said she would come right away if he insisted. But she asked him not to worry about her problems affecting his work, happily adding that she was not just a simple lawyer, but also Qian Heng's girlfriend. After reassuring Qian Heng, Chung Yao ended the call, but his concern for her stayed strong. With his afternoon free, he booked a return flight. Meanwhile, Wu Jun approached the employees, trying to take charge. He instructed them to prepare various notes that only Chung Yao had handled before and encouraged everyone to follow her example. Just then, an emergency call interrupted Wu Jun, causing him to rush away. Qian Heng had returned, and as soon as he arrived, he went straight to the office of the Lawyers Association. There, he found President Zhang and refused to let him leave, not even for a bathroom break. Wu Jun soon arrived, and the two men had a tense exchange. Qian Heng was furious, believing that Deng Ming's actions were unprofessional and against the law. He felt that the Lawyers Association needed to take a stand. Although Qian Heng was angry, Wu Jun handled the situation calmly and managed to ease both Qian Heng's frustration and Mr. Zhang's discomfort. Afterward, they left the office together. Wu Jun thought that Chung Shi might be waiting for him for dinner, so he hurried away. When he arrived at the office, it was already evening. He saw Chung Yao and embraced her, preparing to help her into the car when Bao Rui approached on his bicycle from behind. Both Qian Heng and Chung Yao felt nervous, worried that Bao Rui had seen them, but he hadn't. Bao Rui asked why Chung Yao was there. She quickly made up a story, saying she was going to the subway station and accepted a ride from Qian Heng. Bao Rui decided to join them, saying he needed to go to the station too. Facing the situation, they thought about how to drop Chung Yao at the train station. Chung Yao then lied, saying she was hungry and wanted to eat first. Bao Rui agreed to go with her, forcing her to include him in their dinner plans. While Bao Rui focused on eating, Qian Heng and Chung Yao held hands. Suddenly, Bao Rui bent down and looked up, as if he had caught them. But when he saw an extra bowl of chicken nearby, he was delighted and didn't notice their hand-holding as they continued to talk. Chung Yao had an idea for her case, and as the thought became clear, she jumped up and ran away. Qian Hung grew worried that she was neglecting to eat, but felt proud that his future wife was so dedicated to her work. She ended up working late into the night at home, often forgetting about Qian Hung and not making time for him. As a result, Qian Hung ended up sleeping on the sofa outside. When Cheng Yao returned, she covered him with a blanket, and he woke up, feeling relieved that she had remembered him. The next morning, Qian Hung had another flight to a different city. He had come just to see Cheng Yao, so when he noticed her packed bag, she decided to pack some items for him too. She included some supplements and wrote a heartfelt message to go with them. When Qian Hung arrived at the meeting, he was 5 minutes late, and lawyer Yi Ran was already there. As he opened his file, the supplements fell out, and Cheng Yao's loving message was revealed. Bao Rui thought to himself that his boss really cared for him, while Yi Ran noticed a smile forming on Qian Heng's face. Later, Yi Ran convinced Qian Hung to have dinner with her. During their meal, it was revealed that Qian Hung had contacted Wu Jun, asking him to take extra care of Cheng Yao. Wu Jun took this as a hint that Cheng Yao might soon become his sister-in-law, and he was excited about the connections this could bring through Cheng Shi. He started to feel that a romantic relationship might develop between Yi Ran and Qian Hung, which made him happy for his friend. The next day, Cheng Yao arrived for the case again, just as Deng Ming was leaving the room. Cheng Yao followed him outside and spoke to him warmly, offering her apologies. She acknowledged his sincere feelings, recalling how he had explained them to her before. She praised him and mentioned that their relationship had only recently ended. Since they worked in the same field, she offered to buy him drinks as a gesture of goodwill. After their talk, the court proceedings began. In the end, the judge announced her verdict, stating that, due to lack of evidence, Bei Qin had won the case. Any appeals would need to be filed within 5 days. Bei Qin smiled as he left the courtroom. Immediately after, Deng Ming and another colleague picked up the drinks placed there and began celebrating. Even though they hadn't finished their drinks, they threw the containers in the trash and started to leave. Just then a medical team arrived called by Cheng Yao. They retrieved the drink that Bei Qin had used from the trash. Deng Ming watched in surprise as Cheng Yao had arranged to collect a saliva sample from Bei Qin to match with the child's DNA. Bei Qin refused to give a sample willingly, so they had to force him. A confrontation happened when Fong stepped forward and slapped Bei Qin, expressing her shame that he was the father of her child. Despite her anger, she couldn't get back the saliva sample from the medical team. Deng Ming grew furious, accusing Cheng Yao of planning the entire scheme. Cheng Yao mocked him, stating that as his ex-brother-in-law, her actions were purely professional. Meanwhile, Cheng Shi and Wu Jun, who had come to escort Cheng Yao, overheard the argument. As they left the court, Fong approached Cheng Yao and thanked her, saying that her kindness towards her and her child would be remembered forever. After dropping their client at the hotel, Wu Jun was visibly upset. He confronted Cheng Yao, questioning why her sister would do such things and why she had involved Deng Ming by calling him her ex-brother-in-law in front of him. He warned her that he would cut her salary if she behaved that way again. Meanwhile, Cheng Yao looked sad as Qian Hung arrived to pick her up that day. Trying to cheer her up, he reassured her that losing a case wasn't the end of the world and that he had reserved a nice place to lift her spirits. He noticed her gloomy expression and thought of ways to explain that many people have lost cases but later found success. After listening to his comforting words, Cheng Yao revealed that she had intentionally lost the case to pursue an appeal and felt confident she would win in the second round. This made Qian Hung angry, and he warned her not to tease him about it again. Cheng Yao then mentioned that winning the case would earn her a wish from Qian Hung. Seeing a couple wearing matching rings, she suggested they could have similar jewelry. However, Qian Hung was worried about possible problems with the jewelry and wasn't enthusiastic about the idea. Cheng Yao suggested matching necklaces that they could hide under their clothes, but he raised concerns about the type of metal used and the risk of allergies, showing his lack of interest. Not giving up, Cheng Yao asked Qian Hung to sing a song for her, but he declined, saying his throat was sore and implying he had never sung before. This response frustrated Cheng Yao, leading Qian Hung to offer her something in return: complete relaxation while staying at home, inviting her to ask for anything she wanted. This only made Cheng Yao more upset, and she said she didn't want anything. After dinner, as they returned home, Qian Hung told Cheng Yao that if she did well, she should give him a gift too. In response, Yao gave him the same kiss that had been interrupted earlier, marking their first kiss. This made Hung so happy that he ordered flowers and champagne to celebrate. However, just as they were enjoying the moment, Yao suddenly got a stomachache, prompting Hung to take her to the hospital. The doctor reassured them that it was nothing serious and advised her to rest and eat simple foods. Despite the doctor's reassurance, Hung was still very worried, saying that anything concerning Yao was important to him. Yao told him she couldn't sleep and asked him to sing a song for her. Even though he usually didn't like to sing, Hung eventually sang Happy Birthday. Yao laughed heartily, feeling happy. Soon after, Hang's mother arrived and told him to take good care of Yao, mentioning that their future child would come from her. She also scolded Hung, saying that Yao's illness was due to his pressure, which made both Yao and Hung laugh. After that, she left for a private meeting with the doctor to ask about her future daughter-in-law's condition. As she left, Yao expressed disbelief about Hang's mother, while Hang admitted that he sometimes thought about taking a DNA test to see if he was adopted. Later, Yao returned home to find Hung making porridge for her. At first, he followed an online recipe, but Yao noticed he hadn't added enough water. Eventually, he finished cooking the porridge and personally fed it to her. Although it wasn't very tasty, Yao appreciated the love behind it and ate it anyway. Afterward, she kissed Hung, bringing them close, but their moment was interrupted by the doorbell. They found that his mother had arrived with several simple dishes for Yao. When Hang's mother saw that he had made porridge, she was pleased with his effort. Hung quickly ended the conversation with his mother and sent her away, saying that Yao needed to rest. He promised to stay in her room and take care of her until she fell asleep. While pretending to work, he kept an eye on Yao and took pictures of her during his free time. They shared many romantic moments together. As part 3 comes to a close, the tangled emotions and unspoken truths between Yao and Hung create a suspenseful cliffhanger. What do you think will happen next? Don't miss the final part of their journey in the next video. So the moral of the story is, if your love life feels like a courtroom drama, just make sure you've got some CCTV footage and prawns to back you up, because nothing says I love you like sabotaging a blind date and breaking dishes while trying to be helpful.